Welcome to Royal Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wilding in the stands. For laid back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gonna be our year. We're here drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring. Yeah.
What's up, Kings fans? Welcome back to Royal Rebounds, the Sacramento Kings YouTube channel for fans, by fans. Unfortunately, the Kings lose tonight 117-98 to the LA Clippers. Davion Mitchell leads all Kings with 22 points. Unfortunately, it is not enough, and the Clippers shoot incredibly well from three-point range, which the Kings do not. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to smash that like button. And if you would like to join the Royal family with Calvin, Vinny, and I, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well.
Yep, Kings are still bad, but we already knew that. So I'm going to get a couple shout-outs out of the way here. First of all, Mom, happy birthday. Shout out. I am hella proud to be your son. I hope you have a great day. I also have to give a couple shout-outs to my boys, Christian and Brian, bartenders at the Grotto Bar here at the Hyatt Regency in Maui. If you guys are ever in Maui, make sure you come to the Hyatt. They will take very good care of you. Of course, come see Barry and I as well, but Christian and Brian, shout out.
Don't spend too much time in the Grotto Bar. You will go deaf. If you're listening via your favorite podcast platform, we would appreciate a 5-star rating. And if you would like to be a part of the show, you can always join us live here on YouTube after every single Kings game. We'll be right back with your Sacramento Kings nightcap. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome to our 84th live stream of the season. It's pretty amazing how far we have come so far, and I want to give you all a shout out as well. Thank you so much for subscribing, for liking, for being part of the show, for interacting with us in the chat. I know we only got one game left this season as Kings fans, but we really appreciate you all, and we had a wonderful time reporting on the Kings for you guys this season. So, Calvin, before we start the show, I think we got to just give a RIP to Dwayne Haskins. You know, very, very unfortunate event. I know many people still have lots of questions. I saw the police report, and it didn't really clarify anything.
Yeah,
but
I don't think they know at this point. Really
very, very sad event.
It's incredibly sad.
Prayers go to him and his family. All right, so back on the Kings. Unfortunately, the Kings do lose tonight. The Clippers, going into this game, were on a 3-game winning streak, and now they're on a 4-game winning streak, Calvin. They started off so hot in this game. The Kings just couldn't make a bucket from the start. I think there was like 3 minutes left in the first quarter. The Kings were down like 15, and I was looking at ESPN chances of winning, and they already had the Clippers at like 98.7% chance of winning, which is absolutely crazy. The Kings just couldn't stop the three. Same thing as all season long and probably the past 5 years that I can remember. And they couldn't make the three as well.
Yeah, this was worse than just not being able to stop the three. I mean, you know, sometimes Paul George, great player, he hits a few shots with a hand in his face. But Marcus Morris, it was basically shoot around for him. There wasn't anybody within 10 feet, I'd say, of him on most of his three-point attempts in that first quarter. Robert Covington had a couple threes that were incredibly wide open as well. The Kings looked like they were playing 4-on-5 in that first quarter. It was very, very atrocious to watch. But it's the end of the year. You know, we've already said these guys, it's hard to get up for these games, and especially after you've been beaten down all season long and you're playing a lot of minutes. They just were not ready to play today.
Yeah. Make sure you guys stick around with us through the rest of the show here. We are going to talk about the Dante Di Vincenzo situation, what James Ham said about him and his contract situation. We're going to talk about coaching staff and those reports that came out earlier today. But we're going to finish up the recap of this game first. So, Calvin, there was some rumblings that maybe we'd see Kawhi Leonard in this game. He did not play. Many consider him the best two-way player in the NBA. Paul George is a great two-way player.
Underrated. I would say actually as a two-way player.
You look at this team they just traded for Robert Covington a few months ago.
Norman Powell just came back from injury.
Another awesome two-way player. This Clippers team really has a lot of talent on it, and if Kawhi can come back anytime soon here, it's looking up for the Clippers.
Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously have to see what Kawhi looks like when he comes back. But Paul George, since he's come back from also a pretty serious injury, looks like he hasn't missed a beat. As you mentioned, this team is very loaded with talent, and I certainly wouldn't want to play them in the first round if I was Phoenix. That's a tough 8 seed to draw, especially if Kawhi is back.
And as Priest says, 2 more days until basketball at the bar, Calvin. Are you excited?
Right. Oh, I'm very excited.
I am. I'm excited for the playoffs, the play-in tournament, to cover all that. It's going to be a lot of fun, so make sure you guys join us on Basketball at the Bar. We'll put a link here in the chat for you all. So, interesting. We got to see Keita play in this game.
Yep.
I know many Kings fans were like, where's Keita? Where's Keita? Dude, that block that he had in this game was incredible.
That was the most exciting play of the game for the Kings.
That was
one block.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I thought he had a great game. But let's jump here into the box score and take a look.
Davion leads the way again for Sacramento, as you mentioned at the top of the show. 22 points, 7 assists, only 2 turnovers tonight on 10 of 18 shooting. So he had a pretty good all-around game. The Kings were just never in this one to begin with. Damian Jones struggled today. 12 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. He did have 4 steals somehow. I'm not really sure how he ended up with that number. But Damian, I think you're starting to see teams take note, of him in particular. He's probably showing up a lot more on scouting reports now, obviously because he's starting. But he's also really played very well over the past couple of weeks. He probably hasn't seen many double teams at this point in his NBA career. He's starting to see a little bit of those now, and you can tell it makes him very uncomfortable so far. So he's still got some things to work through.
When you play on teams like the Warriors and the Lakers,
well,
there's nobody to double team you.
Exactly. You barely get on the court, first of all. So, yeah, absolutely. It's just an adjustment phase that he's going to have to go through. And, he probably – if he does come back to Sacramento, I don't expect him to be the starter right away. So it's not like this is a problem, that I think you would have to be really worried about with him. Just a different look. And then the Kings really emptied the bench tonight. The bench played almost as many minutes as the starters did. 27 for Jeremy Lamb, 23 for Josh Jackson, 19 for Keita. Those are minutes that we really are not used to seeing out there. But when you're down basically 20 points the whole way, that gives the opportunity for these guys to get in. Keita did perform well, I thought, in his 19 minutes, 10 points, only 1 rebound, but 2 assists and 2 blocks, including that monster one in the third quarter. But the Kings, as you mentioned, they just couldn't buy a bucket today. 44% from the field, 25% from 3, and 62% at the foul line. The Clippers shot nearly 50% from 3. So you're again having a huge hole to dig yourself out of.
And talk about emptying the bench. The Clippers had 7 guys play off the bench in this game.
Yeah. Oh, and we can't not give Paul George credit where credit's due. Career high 12 assists tonight. He was a magician with the ball really in that first half. I thought his playmaking and his decision-making overall was as good as it could be.
Yeah, the Clippers played everybody tonight, not named Kawhi Leonard. All the starters, all the bench players, they put them all out there. Many of us were hoping that maybe they would bench some guys, considering they've already locked in their playoff positioning at this point. But no, they are building chemistry.
These guys haven't played a ton of minutes together over the course of the season. They just got Marcus Morris back as well not too long ago. So, yeah, they've got to get these guys some minutes and some reps before the playoffs.
Yep. Yeah, you mentioned Damian Jones. 4 steals for him tonight. I thought that was pretty impressive. And, I love the effort and the energy by Davion Mitchell on the defensive end of the floor. Late in the game, did you see him get on the ground and steal that ball from Paul George?
Yeah.
That was a great play.
It was.
This dude just does not give up. And, we talk about defense being contagious, and hopefully this will start to rub off on some of these other guys. I get the feeling from Davion Mitchell that it doesn't matter if this team's down 50 or if they're 30 games under 500. He does not care. He's going to try on every single play. And I absolutely love that. You know, we've talked about potentially trading him this offseason, not that we'd want to trade him, but that everybody is open as far as bringing in more talent. I would really like to see Davion Mitchell stay on this team, because I think when you're changing a culture, and that's probably the Kings' biggest need here, right? Yeah. 16 years straight of missing the playoffs through 2 different ownership groups. And I just want to mention, they've lost more seasons now with this new ownership group than they lost with the Maloofs. Which is pretty wild. Yep. But Davion Mitchell is a culture changer, and I really hope he's here next year. I really do. And I hope they can add some talent as well. Did you see in the, first quarter? No, I think it was in the second quarter where the clock stopped moving in this game. It didn't move for 30 seconds. Yeah. And Katie's like, what's going on here? Why is the clock not moving? The referees didn't even notice. The Clippers got a really long possession, ended in a 3. Not that this is going to change the game at all. Yeah, and, you know, we talk about everyone's having fatigue, right? Like, this is our 84th live stream of the season. Imagine if we were going in the playoffs. We'd hit 100, right? Yeah. But even the referees,
we will with another channel that you can watch us on.
Yeah, even the referees are feeling it at this point, where I have a feeling they probably notice, and they're like, this game doesn't even matter. Like, come on, just let them go.
Yeah. You could have stopped the clock for an hour, and the Kings wouldn't have made up any ground. So
the Kings lost this game when they got off the bus.
They sure did.
They really did. Any other thoughts for you? I mean, I see Harrison Barnes only 3 points tonight, and he was 4th on the team in minutes. Pretty surprising. Only 4 shots for him tonight.
Yeah, no, I don't want to say that the Kings are like running the tread off of Harrison or anything like that, but I think that he's clearly fatigued, and you know, he's being asked to do more than what I think his role is right now. And so unfortunately, when that happens, he has games like this. He'll also have games where he scores 26, 27.
Yeah.
But he just didn't have it tonight, and you know, the Kings are, as Ray said, they've mailed it in. So.
I mean, you look at this stat line. This is a guy that we've talked about has been one of the most consistent guys on this team, who always puts in effort. 26 minutes, only took 4 shots, had 2 free throws, missed both of those, 5 rebounds, no assists, no steals, no blocks, no turnovers, no fouls. Dude was not involved in the game.
Not involved
at all. And I don't blame him, honestly. I really don't. At this point, it's like, what does this even matter? Maybe if you're a younger guy, you're like, I still need to prove myself. I need to do this, that.
Yeah.
Harrison Barnes doesn't need to prove himself to anybody.
He doesn't. But the counter argument to that is these guys are all pros, whether they're rookies or 10-year veterans, right?
Yep.
Like, you get paid to play, so you should come out and put forth your best effort every night. That being said, it is a very long season, and when you lose more than half of your games, that makes the season a lot longer. So I definitely understand kind of where the mentality or the emotional fatigue part of this would set in for some of these guys.
You mentioned 3-point shooting in the game, almost 50% for the Clippers tonight.
I mean, it was shoot
from
around.
the field.
So these pros today shoot the 3 incredibly well. So if you're not going to be within 5 feet of somebody when they're shooting a 3, there's a pretty good chance it's going to go in.
Yeah, and if I were to think of one of the best 3-and-D teams in the league, the Clippers have to be towards the top of that list with guys like Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Robert Covington. A bunch of those guys just play great defense, and they shoot the ball incredibly well from deep. They shot 48.8% from three-point range and 48.8% from the field in this game, which is incredible. And they scored 21 threes in this game.
Right. In the first quarter, I thought they were going to set a record, actually, for most threes made in a game, either a franchise record or a league record, because it was just every possession was a wide-open 3. And this is what the Clippers have done all season long. They've been in the top 3 or 4 team-wise in three-point percentage. Luke Kennard has shot over 45% from 3 for most of the season. He's led the NBA in three-point field goal percentage. So this is exactly who the Clippers are, and there is no team out there that they would rather play than Sacramento because they defend the 3 so horribly.
And we let them get away with it, Calvin.
Yeah, they are who we thought they were.
and we let them get away with it. Only 7 threes for your Sacramento Kings tonight. And that's, I mean, they had 4 threes late in the third quarter, so they were able to get a couple gimmies in the fourth. But this is just, this was not a real game.
No, it was not there was no chance from the beginning of this game.
Anything else that really stood out to you in team stats other than the Kings were never up and the Clippers were up by 23 at one point?
I think, when you have a game like this and you look at the team stats, obviously it shows that the Clippers dominated this game. But unfortunately for Sacramento, it doesn't really show how much the Clippers dominated. I mean, you just see like, oh, well, they were up by as many as 23 and they shot ridiculously well from 3-point and all that stuff. But if you watched the game, you would think it was even worse than that. Yeah.
What's up, Patrick? Good to see you. Glad to have you on here live. Steven, good to see you. Steven says, did you guys hear about LeBron telling AD he was leaving the Lakers?
I did not hear about that.
I don't know how true that is.
There's going to be a ton of these stories flying around for the next 3 or 4 months. So maybe it's true, maybe it's not. There's also a story out that said, I don't know if you saw this, Coach Frank Vogel apparently would sit down in the huddle during games and say, we've got LeBron, AD, Talon Horton-Tucker, Malik Monk, anybody who grabs the rebound, bring it up and go.
Oh, yeah.
And Russell Westbrook, according to the report, in the middle of the huddle, told him, fuck that, I'm the point guard, give me the ball and get out of my way. So, I mean, it kind of sounds like a metaphor for what the season was for the Lakers. I don't know if that's true or not, but
if you were to just tell me that quote and not tell me who it was, that sounds like Michael Jordan to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe a little bit.
Other than the point guard part, but give me the ball, get the hell out of my way.
It usually worked out for Jordan.
Yeah, you got to shoot a little bit better. The link, you can read his lips. I saw that video. I just can't really, I don't know, man. It's hard. It's really hard. It's really hard.
Lip reading can be a dangerous thing.
Yeah,
sometimes.
if you guys ever watched Seinfeld, you remember that episode where they brought the lip reader in to read what they were, and it was totally off.
I mean, they also have all those memes or, the funny ads on YouTube where they do the fake lip reading for NFL and NBA games. And even those, they look spot on, right? But that's obviously not what they're saying. So just lip reading is it's a tricky, slippery slope.
Yeah, it is very slippery. What's up, Mike? Good to see you here. We're going to talk about Luka Doncic and your Mavericks here towards the end of the show because I heard his 17th technical just got rescinded.
16th.
Sorry, 16th. Would not have happened if he were on the Sacramento Kings. Just saying it. Just saying it.
I don't know about that. He'd probably pick up a bunch of technical fouls on a real bad team like the Kings.
Anything else in this game that really, stood out to you? I know we talked about the Keita block. I saw a couple good defensive plays and offensive plays by Davion Mitchell. He seemed to bounce back offensively, shot a little bit better in this game than he did in the previous game. But any other thoughts on this game? I mean, I know it's the second to the last game of the season. Kings are trying to get to that 30-win mark. Maybe they'll win tomorrow. Who knows? But the last time, I think the Clippers played the Suns sat everybody.
They did, and they came back and won. They were down by 20-something, I think.
Yeah, so we will definitely see what happens as far as tomorrow goes. But
as long as Mikal Bridges is playing, I don't think the Kings have a chance.
For all you Tank fans over there, it doesn't matter what happens in this game. The Kings are not changing draft positions. So let's root for them and let's get a win. Will you guys ever have call-in show? It's possible, Steven. We thought about it.
We want to.
Yeah.
We definitely want to. The problem is trying to figure out the right way to do that.
Yes.
That works for our production crew.
Yes. That is important. All right, moving on here, Calvin. I want to talk about Robert Covington. We saw him play a little bit for the Clippers tonight. Not a lot. I think he only played 20 minutes off the bench, 8 points, made a 3 in this game, something he's very, very good at. I, for one, have been a huge Robert Covington fan for a really long time, ever since he was with Philadelphia. he signed that big 4-year, $46 million deal, which for me is an absolute steal for a guy like this. But then I go and I dive in a little bit deeper. He's been on 4 different teams in 4 years.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm not sure he's lived up to that contract.
He's been productive on all those teams. But one of the biggest quotes that I read this week was from Paul George. And that was when Robert Covington arrived in LA after the trade. And he told him, look, Paul, you don't have to guard the best player anymore. I'll do it. That's what I want to do. I absolutely love that. And that is what the Kings need. Right? Like we all say, maybe Davion should go on the best player. Maybe De'Aaron Fox should go on the best player. But that really does take a lot out of you guarding the best player. So having a guy like Robert Covington, who's maybe your 4th, 5th, maybe 6th best player on offense, can go out and guard a guy, lock a guy down, and make a wide open 3 when you need it. I would absolutely love to have Robert Covington on this team. And guess what, Calvin? He's a free agent at the end of this season.
Indeed he is.
We talked with, I think it was Matt George, or actually I think it was me when I was on Matt George's Locked on Kings podcast last week. We were talking about Harrison Barnes and whether we'd trade him and what exactly we would want back from him, because, you know, this league is a wing league, right? And the Kings do not have any wings, right? Like, they have not had many wings at all. Harrison Barnes and Mo Harkless were the only wings on this team. Then they made the trade. You know, you could say they brought in Jeremy Lamb. But Robert Covington, for me, would be an ideal replacement for Harrison Barnes if we were to trade HB to upgrade that 2 or that 4 position. And Robert Covington is a hell of a lot cheaper than Harrison Barnes as well. And I think he's turning 31. So
he's already 31. He'll be 32 this year.
Okay.
I like where you're going with this. My only problem is, you know, I wouldn't say Robert Covington is done in the league. I think he can obviously still play. I actually didn't even realize, I'm just looking at his stats right here. He's also shooting 45% from 3 this year, which is ridiculous. He's only played 21 games is the problem. But
he's not the solution. He's a stopgap.
He's not the solution. I don't know how many really, really effective years he has left ahead of him, especially coming from the standpoint that, like you said, this guy is supposed to be your lockdown defender, right? Mm-hmm. The problem with what he said to Paul George is that Paul George is better defensively on the other team's best player than he is. So it's I think you're going to be asking a lot of him if you bring him into Sacramento and make him a starter. I think that the Kings would have to also fill out the roster with a bunch of other really, really good pieces. Like you said, it's not the answer to the problem or a solution to the problem. It is a step in the right direction, but I would like the Kings to be looking at some other people before they give, you know, $8 million, $9 million a year to Robert Covington.
Yeah. I feel like he is, like I said, a stopgap guy where if you are trading Harrison Barnes to lock in a 2 or a 4 that's going to be with this team for the foreseeable future, maybe a Bradley Beal, John Collins, you know, one of these guys, and you need a guy that can fill that wing spot, Robert Covington, for me, is the perfect guy, and I think we can get him at a great deal. On that subject, let's talk a little bit about Dante Di Vincenzo. He is a restricted free agent this season. The Kings will offer him the $6.6 million qualifying offer. But I heard some rumors today from James Ham that there might be some trouble in paradise. You want to kind of break that down a little bit?
Yeah. So the report, as I'm sure most of you guys already know, because you know that's Kings fans right now. That's the only thing that they have to look for right now is reports like this or you know stuff that's leading into the off season. But basically, people in Dante Di Vincenzo's camp are unhappy with how his minutes and lack of starting availability have been handled throughout the end of this season here. There's the idea behind it is that the Kings front office is trying to minimize Di Vincenzo's free agent marketability so they can sign him to it or have a better chance of signing him to an even deal. So this is a tough one to try to really figure out what's going on. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to blame Alvin Gentry. I saw someone say that earlier in the chat here. And maybe the front office is really orchestrating this, and Gentry is just kind of the fall guy for it. Mm-hmm. I'm not so sure. The only other thing I will say about this is I totally understand where Dante is coming from. You know, especially this late in the season when these games are basically meaningless.
Yep.
To think that the team has wanted you for now 2 years, they finally got you. He's probably been told that his role is going to dramatically increase from what it was in Milwaukee. So, of course, that's going to be disheartening to you. My only problem with it is you've got to earn that. You got to play like that.
Yeah.
And he's looked good in spots. Don't get me wrong. He's had good games. He's played really well defensively. We always talk about how great of a rebounder he is for a guard. He's been a little hit or miss overall, though. So I just see both sides of it. Like, I totally understand throwing him out there in the starting lineup right now to give him a shot. And I still don't really get why they haven't started him. But on the other side of that, I do think that, you know, there's something about when you are a pro, you've got to earn your spot.
Yeah. So let's take a look here at the numbers. So Di Vincenzo was drafted with the 17th pick overall in the first round. If he would have had 80 starts during his rookie contract, he would have qualified as a full-time starter. He started 66 games for the Milwaukee Bucks. He hasn't started a single game for Sacramento, meaning he is 14 games short from qualifying as starter. Now, what that does is if he would have qualified as a starter, he would have been equivalent to the number 9 pick as far as a qualifying offer. It would have been $7.9 million instead of 6.6. Now, you look at that, you say $1.3 million. What does that really do? It's a qualifying offer. I don't think the Kings expect to get him at $6.6 million, right? Like, that is just a qualifying offer. You have to extend that so that he's a restricted free agent, and that allows you to match an offer. However, that could affect him, right? Like, I can see why his camp would not be happy. You know, I was watching the Kings beat today with James Ham and Brendan Nunez, and they were talking about Di Vincenzo and you know, what to expect from him. They started going down a bunch of these guys that are similar 3-and-D guys that play the same position and looked at their contracts. They looked at guys like Marcus Smart, Josh Hart, the dude that got traded from the Lakers, can't remember his name, was traded for Buddy Hield.
This season? Traded for Buddy Hield?
Yeah, Caldwell Pope. A 3-and-D guy.
In the trade that didn't actually happen.
That didn't happen. And they were kind of breaking down all the salaries. Then they went through all those guys and they're like, is this guy a starter or no? And they went through them all and they're like, starter, not starter, starter, not starter. They landed on Di Vincenzo and they said, is he a starter? What would you say?
He's in between right now. I mean, I agree with Sass. He deserves to start on this team. I mean, you said he started 66 games for Milwaukee. That's not because they thought he was the starter on that team. That was out of necessity. They had injuries, all sorts of stuff, and he filled the role for them. I do think he deserves to start, but it's exactly like you said. Is he a starter just in the NBA in general?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know how many teams, if you were to move him on all 30 teams, how many of them would you say this guy is the starting shooting guard on that team?
So Brendan brought up a good point in saying, if this was last year and I asked you this question, if he was a starter, we both would have said yes.
Yeah.
Right? Starting caliber player, championship team, unfortunately had the ankle injury, missed the playoffs, all that stuff. But last year I would have said, yes, he is a starter. Do I think he's the same player as last year? I do. I don't think he's gotten any worse. Maybe he's coming back from injury. He still has potential. I think he's only 25 at this point. A lot of guys get paid on potential. Then they go into the salary issue and what they expect him to get. you and I talked about this a few weeks ago, and we settled in the like maybe 10 to 12 million per season. I think it's going to be a little bit less than that. They're talking mid-level exemption, 8 million, maybe 9 million a season. How do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, Ray, I would just like to reiterate what I just said a second ago. You're right. He did start on a championship team out of necessity, not because, I mean, if you look at that roster, even with him on it, do you really think that he should start? Who's he going to start over? Drew Holiday? Chris Middleton?
This was before Drew Holiday.
The 66 games? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, look, I'm not trying to put him down. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I just said I think he deserves to start for the Kings, absolutely. But I don't like the comparison of him starting on Milwaukee to him starting in Sacramento. It's not the same.
But that's another thing too, right? Like maybe they're upset about him not getting the start for the additional, 14 games to make it at 80. Maybe they're upset that you are a starter on a championship team, and now you're not even starting on a team that won 29 games this season. That's got to be a huge blow to your ego. And everyone looking at it is like, you really want to re-sign with this team that didn't even win 30 games? You were just on a championship team starting last season.
No, I mean, the bottom line of this story is it's unfortunate, right? Like, this is not what the Kings want going into the offseason, if these reports are true. And the other part about it is, this is stuff that I don't think we're ever really going to be able to figure out what the actual reason for this is. I mean, is Monty McNair really going to Alvin Gentry and saying, don't start this guy because we want a better chance of re-signing him in the offseason? Is Alvin Gentry saying to Monty McNair, basically F you, this is the end of the season, I'm going to play who I want to play.
Yep.
Those are things that we just don't know, and we won't ever know. So I think we're all in agreement that he deserves a chance to start on this team. And you certainly don't want to irritate a guy that you've tried to get very, very hard for the past couple of seasons, and you're hoping to bring back next year.
Yeah, I mean, how often could you say that a team traded for me twice, right? Like, how many guys could say that one team traded for me twice? Obviously, the first trade didn't go through, but the Kings have definitely wanted this guy for a long time. I think they feel like he is part of the future of this team. But also at the same time, like we have talked about, the 2 position has been a huge need for this Kings team. And do you want to start a guy in Di Vincenzo through the rest of the season, pretend like he's your guy for next season, re-sign him, and then you're able to get a guy like a Bradley Beal or another upgrade at the 2, and then you're sending Di Vincenzo to the bench making $50 million or something like that? Like, maybe that's not the best move. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. I mean, I don't think the Kings...
DJ, you're right.
The goal of this offseason for the Kings is to improve talent.
Yep.
And if that's at shooting guard, then I'm going to take that. I mean, there are a lot of other players. I don't know how likely it is that Sacramento gets any of them, but there are a lot of other shooting guards in the league that I would rather have start than Dante Di Vincenzo. So I'm just saying, like no position is safe. I mean, we've talked about it with Fox, right?
Yep, that's true. The goal is to improve this team. And on that subject, I want to give you all a tip in improving yourself. Support for Royal Rebounds is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code ROYALFAMILY. All capitals, one word, Royal Family at manscaped.com. 20% off, free worldwide shipping. Make sure you guys go check it out. We save balls, and by my math, about 8 million of them, Calvin.
And counting.
And counting. I'm just glad the Kings didn't tank the season. I mean, they kind of did. They weren't trying to, but they did.
It depends on how you define tanking.
Yeah. There's different stages, right? They didn't Sixers tank or Thunder tank. They did the good old Sacramento tank.
Yeah. Yep.
It's
Good old
Dante,
Sacramento
guys.
Kings.
Dante is from Devil May Cry. All right, here. Moving on, Calvin. Let's talk about an article we read this morning about the Sacramento Kings coaching search. I think it's official. We can all say that Alvin Gentry will not be the head coach of the Sacramento Kings next season. For me, there's a bunch of guys that I could put in this list, right? Like, there are a ton. I'm not in charge. I'm not going to make the decision. It's up to Monty McNair. I think that Monty's done okay in his trades. I think he's done great in his drafting. So I trust him to make the right move. The one thing that I do really hope for is that the Kings do a real coaching search. And they actually take their time. They sift through these applications. And they, pick a guy and stick with him, right? Like, the last couple coaches the Kings have had, they've kind of just rushed it. They hired Luke Walton just because he was available. He had just got fired by the Lakers. And I don't want to break any breaking news here, but I think the Lakers are probably going to fire their coach at the end of the season.
It does seem that way.
A great defensive-minded coach. And not that I want him to be the head coach in Sacramento, but he will be available. I just want them to take their time. They did the same thing with Coach Yeager. And I'm a big Coach Yeager fan. But as soon as he was fired by the Grizzlies, ownership was like, we want this guy. Bring him in. We want him here. They did not do a thorough coaching search. Now, this is something that I heard in the past week that actually kind of hurt me. But do you know who wanted to come to Sacramento when they hired Luke Walton?
I don't know.
He's probably the leader for Coach of the Year this season.
Oh, Monty Williams. Yeah,
Monty Williams. He wanted to come to Sacramento. They chose Luke Walton instead.
Is there a quote from him saying that?
From James Ham.
Can I find it? From James Ham or from his mouth?
From James Ham.
From Monty Williams' mouth or from James Ham's mouth?
From James Ham's mouth.
Okay.
But I trust James.
James, I respect you very, very much, but I still would like to hear it from Monty.
All I'm saying is, if that's true, that's brutal.
Oh, yeah.
And
well, look, whether he wanted to come to Sacramento or not, the fact that it was even a possibility for them to bring him on as head coach, and instead you go with Luke Walton. Obviously, everyone in hindsight now is going to say that was a horrible mistake. But here's the thing. Maybe Monty Williams gets hired in Sacramento. Do you think that the Kings are the number one seed in the West today?
But maybe he's fired already, too.
I mean, yeah, it's possible. But
So bottom line, do a thorough coaching search. Hire a guy and stick with him, dude. Like De'Aaron Fox, how many coaches has he had now? 3? Like, just stick with a guy. Let's go back to the article.
yeah, so I mean, none of these names are going to surprise everyone. But Barry and I actually saw a couple different lists. The names are very similar across both of them. Basically, Kenny Atkinson, Mike Brown, Terry Stotts, Mike D'Antoni. Am I forgetting anybody? Steve Clifford. So yeah, we've been bringing up those names all year long. I mean, David Vanterpool is another one, that I've seen here in the chat that makes a lot of sense. And I agree with you. They should be doing a thorough coaching search. They should be interviewing, all the people that they really consider true candidates for the job. You have to be a little careful with that, though, because if you start interviewing too many people, you may end up losing out on the chance to sign the guy that you actually end up wanting to be the coach if you take too long. But they should definitely do a thorough search.
Do you trust Carmichael Dave? I do. Carmichael Dave's been covering the Kings for like 20 years, man. I trust him. I do.
No, look, I trust James Ham also. I'm just saying, how many people in the NBA world have you heard directly out of their mouths that they want to be in Sacramento in the last 20 years? How many? How many names can you give me?
That's
Whether
true.
they're coaches or players.
That's true. And also, too, like, there's smoke screens. Things happen, right? Like, people pass on information to these guys just for the fact that they'll put it out there, and maybe it's not true. I don't know. But I do think that whoever Monty hires, I think that he or she needs to stay through the rest of Monty's tenure. And they should not be fired unless Monty's fired. right? Can we agree on that? Like,
I mean, I don't know.
Or longer.
It depends on what happens. I certainly don't want them to give up too early on a coach, but there's just a lot of different things that can happen for me to say for their entire tenure.
And I really like Terry Stotts a lot too.
Yeah, I think he would be a very solid guy for the job. I mean, all of these guys are not just qualified, but we all kind of, out of everybody's name that we just said in that list, I've seen in this chat almost every single one of them chosen as the people that everybody watching wants to be their coach. So it makes sense for all of these guys. It's really going to come down to how the interviews go, all the stuff that they're going to talk, to Monty in the front office about, the stuff that we're not going to hear, playing style, types of players that they're looking to either draft or try to acquire. That's going to make or break who they pick for this job.
Do you know who Vivek's choice is?
I do not.
Doug Christie.
I'm not surprised.
Apparently, that's the one he's rooting for. So
I'm not surprised.
And
hopefully, he's not involved too much in the interview process.
I love Doug Christie, but Vivek, please just stay in your lane. Please stay in your lane. Ray says Kings need to hire a coach before the draft. Do you agree or disagree?
I think it would be ideal for them. I don't know if it's absolutely necessary. I mean, I'd rather them settle on the real coach that they want, whether it's before or after the draft. But no, I think that they will. The Kings front office will try to get this done before draft day.
Yeah. Ray, do you think that it really matters who the coach is as far as the draft goes? Like, do you think that if they hire Kenny Atkinson or Mike D'Antoni, that's going to change who they pick in the draft or how they trade?
We all expect them to try to trade the first pick anyway. So
best available.
Do you need a coach there to say we agree to trade the pick to this team? No, you don't. But I don't. I'm not trying to discredit that comment. I do think that it would be a good thing for the Kings to hire a coach before the draft.
They need a coach as soon as possible, but they also need to take their time. It's a balance, in my opinion. It really is. I want a coach who's good at X's and O's and makes quick adjustments like Nick Nurse.
Sure. Why wouldn't you?
I think we all want that young guy, that Sean McVay guy, that just
got to rub it in again.
It just comes in here and does something. But like I said, it's a balance, right? In between age and experience. And, if you're a team like the Kings, you can look at it a couple ways, right? Like either you haven't made the playoffs for 16 seasons, you're free rolling so you can afford to, hit a home run in this pick, or you could look at it and you could say the Kings need to nail this. They can't afford to take any risk on this, and they need to hire an experienced guy. I don't know how
Kings
Monty
do
feels,
need to nail
but
this.
yeah,
They absolutely do need to nail this because the number one thing that's holding them back is defense.
Yep.
So if they get a coach in there who can actually get through these guys' heads how to play defense and actually make them do it, they increase their win total by 10, probably.
Yeah, for me, it's like they just need to learn how to guard the 3-point line. I feel like that has been
learn how to guard everywhere.
But that's been the problem in Sacramento for like 10 years, dude, is the 3-point line.
Though a lot of teams in the NBA have trouble guarding the three now. That's just the way it goes because guys shoot so well at every position. They stretch the floor so wide. And you really have, I was just talking to my dad about this. Teams like the Miami Heat are so a dime a dozen in this league. Like it is really difficult to get all five people to be able to rotate and cover the amount of ground that it takes to cover against NBA offenses today. But the Kings are so far behind everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, minimal improvements here. They go from 30th or 29th in defensive efficiency to 21st or 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
That, I don't know if it makes them a playoff team, but they're a much better team. And that's a relatively small improvement.
Well, you look at Miami Heat, they've had the Arisons have been the owners for a while. They had Pat Riley.
They're one of the best run organizations, of course.
They had Pat Riley. They bring in their video coordinator. He's been head coach for almost 20 years now.
Get guys like Duncan Robinson, who are maybe one of the worst individual defensive players in the league. He plays good team defense on that team. Mm-hmm. So I'm not comparing Miami and Sacramento. They're obviously very different organizations that have been on different trajectories for a long, long time. But that's what this team needs. So they really do have to nail whoever is going to be the new head coach for this team.
Priest said he'd rather have hemorrhoids than D'Antoni as coach.
Man,
you agree
that's
with that?
Tough. I wouldn't rather have hemorrhoids than D'Antoni as coach, but
I've never had hemorrhoids, so I don't really know what they feel like. But
it sound very fun at all.
It doesn't sound fun at all. And, everyone that thinks that D'Antoni is just an offensive genius and does not know defense at all, I was in that camp a few years ago. Check out some of the Houston stats when he was the head coach the last couple of years. Their defense was incredible.
Most people credit that to his staff, his assistants, but doesn't mean he can't get those assistants to come to Sacramento. So
that's the head coach, right? You take all the blame and you also get all the reward too. So I'm gonna give it to him. There. All right, Calvin. Let's talk about Luka Doncic in Mike's Mavericks. The NBA officially rescinds his 16th technical, meaning he will not be suspended for the last game of the season. For those of you that are not keeping track, 16, you get your 16th, you're suspended for a game. When the playoffs start, it resets. You get 7. On the 7th, you're suspended for a game in the playoffs. Luka Doncic has been arguing a lot this season. I've seen all the memes about him asking or telling female referees that they're pretty and all these crazy antics that he has. Are you worried if you're the Mavericks that he might pick up 7 technicals here in the playoffs?
That's an awful lot. I don't know if I'm worried that he picks up 7, but I will say this. At one point, so Luka, the NBA in general, everybody complains for the most part, and they complain too much. And there's a lot of very high-profile players that complain way more than they should, and Luka has been one of those players his whole career. I do give him credit, though. He did say at one point this season, he probably could have done it a little sooner, but he did say at one point this season that he was done. He agreed that it was a bad look for him, for the NBA, and he just wasn't going to do it anymore. And I think that he has been much, much better since he's said that. I was surprised, actually, at this technical they gave him. He was definitely complaining, but I'm not sure it really warranted a technical. I'm also surprised that they rescinded it. But I do give Luka credit because I think he has been, maybe not 100%, but pretty close to a man of his word in that he's going to be better about talking to the officials because he was as bad as it gets before that.
Well, depending on how this last games shake out, the Mavericks are either going to play the Jazz or the Nuggets in the first round of the playoffs. Both of those are pretty good teams that are dealing with, health issues, injury issues. Are the Mavericks even going to play 7 games in the playoffs?
It's possible. I mean, so look, here's the thing about Dallas. They've been an incredibly underrated team all season long. Obviously, Luka has had a phenomenal year. They've been one of the top 3 defensive teams in most defensive categories for the entire season. And it's very impressive what they have done to win 50 games, going through the whole Porzingis thing. That didn't work out. They trade him. They pick up guys that at the time I didn't really think were going to do much for them, but Spencer Dinwiddie has been phenomenal. Jalen Brunson's had a really good year, and they are another one of those teams that plays really, really solid team defense. They play at a very slow pace, and they drag games out. And if you have a guy like Luka, as well as a bunch of other guys who can stretch the floor and shoot threes in a close game in late situations, they will take that every time. So they're definitely a dangerous team in the playoffs. I think they have a much better chance at taking down Utah than they do at taking down Denver. But just because Jokic, to me, he's on another level right now. Like, he's doing things that have never been done in the
What's
NBA
going on
before.
with Jamal Murray?
I haven't heard any official reports on him yet, but I think the Nuggets well, I know the Nuggets are optimistic that he could play in the postseason here.
And Porter Jr.'s out.
I don't think Porter Jr. is playing.
Because I heard he was out for the regular season, but I haven't heard much about potentially postseason play for him.
I don't think he's I don't think he's as close as Jamal Murray is to playing.
I think the doctor said he'd need a backiotomy.
Yeah.
All right, moving on here. Oh, official news came out today. Jamal Murray and MPJ are officially out for the postseason.
That's a bummer for Denver, but
yeah,
I still wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs right now. Jokic, as I said, the dude's just incredible and virtually unstoppable.
Yeah, that is going to be a very good team next season. It really is. All right, guys, I want to remind you all that starting on Monday, April 11th, we are stopping or temporarily pausing our coverage on Royal Rebounds because the Kings are eliminated.
There won't be any games to cover, unfortunately.
But we will be covering the play-in tournament and all the postseason NBA action on our second channel, Basketball at the Bar. I'm going to post it here in the chat. I would appreciate if you all go there and subscribe. We will be producing content Monday through Friday, every single day during the week, just having a good time talking about the entire NBA, the playoffs, the play-in. We would love for you to join us, be interactive in the chat. Vinny, cue the video.
Yeah. Ball so hard, you better believe me, it's scary. It's basketball at the bar with Calvin and Barry. So put a tip in the jar, cause these dudes can really fill it up. Whether it's buckets you need or just a beer in a cup. We're here for fresh conversations and some delicious libations. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. My boys got you covered like you being guarded by payers. From the glove to the claw and everyone else in between. Calvin and Barry got everything that you need. So sit back, relax, because we're starting the show. It's basketball at the bar. Grab your drinks and let's go. Yeah. Grab a drink and let's go. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification. Calvin and Barry. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification. Let's get it.
Grab your drinks and let's go. Please make sure you guys go and subscribe to that channel so you can join us for all live postseason coverage. And we'll be posting a little bit here on Royal Rebounds, maybe a video a week or so, giving you guys some updates. We'll be covering, the draft lottery, free agency, all that fun stuff on Royal Rebounds. So we're not going anywhere. We just wanted to start another channel so we could spend some more time with you all. Who is the artist of the theme song? I like it. It's a guy on Fiverr who rapped it for us, but Calvin is the one that wrote the song. So I hope you guys all enjoy that. All right, Calvin. Last game of the season tomorrow at Phoenix. Anything you're looking forward to in this game? Anything at all?
That's tough. I'm looking forward to what do they say on TNT? 1, 2, 3, Cancun.
You want to go fishing, huh?
No, I mean, I'm really looking forward to basketball at the bar and covering the playoffs. I wish the Kings were in the playoffs, but
yeah,
I'm not so sure. I mean, I agree with Sass here. You are hoping to see a lot of Keita in this game. Him and JaVale McGee, I think, would probably be a good matchup. I doubt DeAndre Ayton will play, but I'm not 100% certain on that. So I really love watching the Suns. Like, Mikal Bridges is one of my favorite players to watch. Unfortunately, I don't have much good things to say about the Kings right now, but
I'm excited to see Davion Mitchell. I'm excited to see Nehemias Keita. I'm excited to see, one more Kings game. And, I know this is Calvin, our second official season covering the Sacramento Kings. But this is our first season doing a post-game live after every single game. We did miss one game this season because we were in Arizona for a bachelor party having way too much fun.
We got a little carried away.
But we had an awesome time with you all. And we will be here tomorrow to give you a shoulder to cry on or a beer to cheers and all that fun stuff to wrap up this Sacramento Kings season. So please, everyone, go to Basketball at the Bar, subscribe. Make sure you guys like this video. Subscribe to this channel if you are not already. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate you all so much. Have a wonderful evening. In the meantime, go Sacs.
Yeah. Ball so hard, you better believe me, it's scary. It's basketball at the bar with Calvin and Barry. So put a tip in the jar, cause these dudes can really fill it up. Whether it's buckets you need or just a beer in a cup. We're here for fresh conversations and some delicious libations. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. My boys got you covered like you being guarded by Peyton. From the glove to the claw and everyone else in between. Calvin and Barry got everything that you need. So sit back, relax, because we're starting the show. It's basketball at the bar. Grab your drinks and let's go. Yeah. Grab a drink and let's go. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification. Calvin and Barry. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification. Let's get it.